Story time on how I helped the cops catch a guy who was high on meth who broke into my apartment building. I just got the okay to talk about this story, so I'm going to go ahead and explain in as much detail in one video as I can. This may be 2 parts, but we'll see. So I live in an apartment complex that has 5 apartments and a shared basement. So 5 apartments, a shared basement. One of the apartments is in the basement, and that is my apartment. We have a door that connects to the shared part, and then we have the other side of the door is our apartment. And then there's 2 apartments above us, and then 2 apartments above them. Well, last night around 6 p.m. I decided to take a nap. I was tired, I had a long day. Around 8 p.m. I wake up, I use the restroom, do my normal stuff, and within 20 minutes of me waking up, the town police are knocking at my door. I open the door and a town police officer says, "Hey, this dude's on the run, this is his name, if you see him, has he been here, whatever, let us know." And I explained that he wasn't in my apartment. I'm not letting some random guy in my apartment. But I said I would keep a lookout. After the police officer left, I took a second, got a can of soda, and then I went out to the basement to do some laundry. I had no idea that within 5 minutes this dude would reveal himself, just suddenly appear from where the washer and dryer were. This dude legit just started moving and messing with the washer and dryer and then stood up and stared at me. So as he starts to walk towards me, I back up a couple feet and I'm like, "What the fuck, dude? You're in my basement." And he looks at me and he says, "I'm on the run, blah, blah, blah." He's panting. You can tell he's out of breath. His face is red. He looks like he's going into heat stroke or something. And my first thought is, okay, I need to distract him. The cops are going to show up any second because they were just here. I'm going to distract him and get the cops here. So to keep him distracted, I literally just have a conversation with him. I'm like, "Dude, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. I don't give a shit. I'm just sitting there acting like I'm nonchalant about this whole thing. I don't give a fuck. I have a death wish or something." He starts to try to walk up the stairs that lead to street level. And I somehow distracted him enough to stop and, only stay halfway up the stairs. And he's like, "Why are you helping me? What are you doing? Are you calling the cops, whatever?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't give a shit what you do." So we're talking, and I come up with an excuse to go back into my apartment and grab my second phone. I tell him, "I need to go get a drink. I'll be right back." So I go get a drink, and I come back out, and he's still there, and I'm just like, "Dude, what the fuck?" Okay, part 2. Okay, this is part 2 on how I helped the cops catch a guy who was running from the police that was high on meth and broke into my apartment building. If you haven't seen part 1, go ahead and click and go watch part 1 and then come back. So at this point, I'm standing here distracting the guy. I tell him, what drug? He was explaining that he was running from the cops, he's failed his drug test on probation or whatever, and he says meth. And I was like, okay. So at this point, he's still, panicking and stuff, and I'm like, "Dude, do you need a soda? I can go get you a drink. Do you need a glass of water, a soda, what?" And he said, "Yeah," and he's like, "Why are you helping me?" And I'm like, again, "Dude, I don't give a shit what you do. I just don't need you causing a lot of shit for me right now, so I'm just gonna go get you a soda." So I go and grab a soda out of my fridge, and while I do, I grab my second phone and I text 911. And I tell them his name. I say, "Yes, there's an emergency. This is his name. This is the address. He's in my basement." I go back out. I hand him the soda. He has no idea I have this second phone. He's questioning why I'm helping him and stuff, and I again say, "Dude, I got nothing to lose right now. I don't know." So the rest of the distracting him, I don't exactly remember because I'm still high on adrenaline. But I remember coming up with some excuse to walk back into my apartment, and at that point the cop is knocking at my door. So I open the door, there's the main town cop that had knocked earlier, and then there's another cop, and I'm explaining to them, "Hey, he's in there, he's in the basement at the bottom of the steps, I have him sitting down drinking a soda, I distracted him." And because I was so, anxiety ridden, the cops were having trouble, understanding me, but eventually they go in there and look, and they don't see him, and they start looking around, and they don't see him. And he had, ran and made a noise and, hid again in the basement. And I'm like, I know he's in there. If you didn't catch him going up the stairs, he's in there. So, of course, they asked to look in my apartment. They look in every little detail in my apartment, and they don't see him in here because he's not in my apartment. So I point to a spot that I thought I heard him at, and I point to it, 3 times, okay? I tell, 6 cops, "Look there. I think he's there." And they don't look. They look in a bunch of other places, and they don't look in that one spot. But eventually they do. and you'll never believe who was there. The guy who was high on meth running from the cops. So they pull out, like, their tasers and guns and, like, point them at him, and I just back away into the apartment, and I hide in my bathroom, because, like, this is scary. Eventually, they get him in handcuffs, and they walk him out of the apartment, and then there's, like, 7 cops coming from the basement through my apartment to the upstairs. And they walk him through, and he looks at me, because I walked out, and he looks at me and says, "I'm not mad at you, sweetheart." What? So at that point, I'm like, what the fuck? And the cops are looking at me and they're saying, "You did such an amazing job. We're really proud of you. You did so good. I don't know how you stayed so calm. You did amazing." And now since then, I have gotten no sleep. 12 hours later, I haven't gone to sleep yet. Maybe part 3? So a town police officer just knocked at my door and asked that I do a written statement, because apparently this man is facing limited charges. And they're hoping my statement will prove that, 1, I didn't help him, and that 2, it'll give him more charges. What's insane to me right now is that I'm having to write this statement because of how little charges he has going for him, and because there's a possibility that police and prosecution or judge or whatever might think that I helped him. And this is why I share my story. This is why I posted it on my Facebook. This is why I told people immediately what was going on while it was happening. This is why I made TikToks as soon as I was able to. This is why. If they don't believe me, I'm at risk for charges for harboring a fugitive. And that is so scary, because my worst fear happened when that man broke into my apartment building. My worst fear happened when he stood up, looked me in the face, and I could see that he was sweating, that he had ran, and I knew his face. And I'm having to sit here and explain again and again and again how I'm innocent, and that I just distracted him until the cops could come again. So I'm here, writing my statement. I had to take a break, because this is mentally draining for me. I'm at the part where I was finally able to text 911 and say that he was in my basement and give my address. And I'm just hoping this works, that he gets more charges, that they believe me. So I will be back with part 4 once my statement is fully written, but I'm realizing this is going to take me a few hours. I'm gonna have to take a break and get something to eat, because this is already stressing me out. So, a quick update, I was able to get the camera footage, my security camera footage from that night. It is now Sunday. That all happened on Thursday. The cops do now have the footage, and they are going to be reviewing it. Once they go through it and everything and give me the okay, I will post a video showing this man and what happened. I will post the video evidence. But for now, this is just what I have. So I will post probably shorts about this or another long video like this one in the future.